Welcome to another edition of the Basketball Teacher Podcast. Our mission is to bring you discussions on a wide array of topics in the coaching world to grow players on and off the court. You can connect with us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and also reach us directly through email at basketballteacherpodcast@gmail.com. Now, here's your host, Coach Mike Hernandez.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you guys so much for joining us here for another episode. As always, thank you so much for your support, whatever platform you're listening to us on, wherever in the world that you are listening to us from. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you for your continued support and for sharing the podcast to those around you as well. Today's topic is going to be one that was requested by a few people, which is about playing fast on both ends of the court. A lot of us as coaches really like the idea of playing up tempo, playing fast on both ends, but also have to balance with making sure that we're still executing and not being sloppy and still maintaining that pace of play for the whole duration of the game. So we're going to get into what it's like to play fast on both ends, how to keep things under control, how to stay sharp, both physically and mentally, and hopefully help you, the listener, give you some tips and tricks to keep your players playing fast and engaged the whole game. So my guest to help discuss this topic with me is the River Ridge head girls basketball coach. I'm very happy to be joined by Coach Jason Taylor. Coach, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
Doing good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Really looking forward to getting into this one. So Coach, let's go ahead and get started with your coaching journey, your basketball journey. Where is the game taking you? Where's your coaching journey taking you? And how did you end up at River Ridge?
I guess my story is kind of like a lot of other people. I've played basketball since I was, as long as I could remember. Played middle school, played high school. I wasn't the best player. I wasn't very good, but and again was always felt like on some pretty good teams, surrounded by some really talented kids. But I grew up in Kentucky, so basketball is just sort of that's the culture in that state. Everybody loves it, and you grow up a Big Blue fan. And I moved to Woodstock, Georgia, in 2004 as my first real teaching job, and there, when I got introduced in the faculty meeting, the principal said, introduced who I was and told where I was from. And it wasn't 2 hours later, the head girls basketball coach came by and asked if I'd be interested in helping. He said, you're from Kentucky, so basketball's in your blood, right? And I was like, you better believe it is. And so I coached there for 5 years. And as soon as River Ridge opened up, it opened up in 2009 as a brand new school. I interviewed for the job and, was fortunate enough to get the job. And so the rest has been kind of history from there.
So have you been the coach at River Ridge ever since the school first opened?
Yeah, I've been the only girls coach, for the duration. We've won 3 region championships in the time we've been there, or the time that I've been there. And just been really fortunate to have really supportive principals along the way. We're on our 3rd principal, 4th athletic director. So, schools changed over administration a few times, but I've been really fortunate. We've had successful programs, and I've been able to keep that job there.
So I have to ask, even before you get into my first set of questions, what is that like being the first coach at a school that just opened? How did you kind of go about just even getting things going and getting things started? Because you're literally starting from scratch when a school just kind of opens like that.
Yeah, it was different. I mean, you don't have chairs, you don't have scores table, you don't have brain to operate the score clocks. All that stuff had to be ordered. Didn't have basketballs, didn't have a rack to put the basketballs in, didn't have uniforms. So just from the administrative side of it, it was just everything that you could think of that you need. You had to prioritize that list. Do you need shooting guns? Of course you do, but do you got the $10,000-$12,000 to go buy shooting guns right now? Nope. So those are going to have to be on hold.
Yeah.
So just understanding the basics. What do you need? What do you need to get started? And it's just simple as just having some practice gear, having uniforms for the games and basketballs, and you're ready to go. They provided us with a beautiful facility. But like I said, all the other stuff we need chairs. We got to have somewhere to sit during the game. It's just getting the little stuff together. And the guys, coach and I worked really well together. he's since retired and enjoying that retirement life. But it was interesting. Again, we started our very first year with nothing but freshmen. I had 6 girls for a team.
Wow.
We started off playing a JV schedule. They allowed us, the county did, to pull up some 8th graders. So I pulled up 4 8th graders, so I had a total of 10 kids. And we played just a JV schedule that first year, with the exception of we played 4 varsity games, and in those I couldn't use the 8th graders, so I had a team of 6 to have to, we went and played in a new school Christmas tournament. Those new schools opened up with freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. We were the only ones that just had freshmen out there, and we went 1-2 in that Christmas tournament. That was where I had my first real reality check. When I had all 10 kids, I like to press. We like to play fast.
Yeah.
And I thought we could go out there with the 6 that I had, and we could continue to do that. And we had a lead going into the 4th quarter. We were doing that, and then really hit that wall early in the 4th quarter, and the other team came back on us, and we ended up losing by 10 or 12 points, and realized, you got to learn to manage stuff better. And next game we played zone, which we never play zone. And everybody was able to stay on the floor, and we won our next game. Had the legs to play in the 4th quarter, and then the last game we played, we lost in overtime with 3 kids left on the floor. So,
wow, yeah, no, that's a great story and such a unique circumstance and unique situation to be put in, for sure. That's will definitely help you grow as a coach and learn as a coach, kind of going through those experiences. That's for sure. And before we get into our topic, the other question I wanted to ask, and this is personal to me because this applies to me as well, is I want to get your insight on being a male who is a girls basketball coach. Was there an adjustment period for you? Is there things that you thought might have been a big deal that didn't end up being a big deal? Can you just kind of talk about what your experience has been like being in that situation?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, when I first got to Woodstock in 2004, it was my first experience being a coach, really. And I was recruited by the girls' coach to be on their staff. And so the only experience I've had is with coaching girls. So as far as, my demeanor and the way I coach my players, it's always been the same. And again, I think that all comes from, as a coach, you got to develop a relationship with your players and learn what they respond to. But as far as the other, the biggest concern always as a male coach is the locker room. Don't ever want to walk in that locker room without beating on the door and yelling them first. Hey, everybody dressed. All right, we're good. Let's go. So that's always been to me, what I thought would be the scariest thing. And, it just becomes second nature. Always knock and yell first, and you don't have any issues. But as far as coaching, I don't think I would coach guys any different than I would coach girls. I'm not drawing up alley-oop plays for girls, but I am drawing the same back picks, and we're hitting layups. So I don't think X's and O's would have been different. I don't think the way I treat my players, would have been any different. So I've not really had a tough time adjusting to it because, like I said, it's all I've ever really done for the last 18 years. Right.
And I think that's kind of the delicate balance that sometimes coaches in that situation, even like myself, is we think sometimes, is it going to be any different? Is there going to be anything weird? But then it's still basketball, and you're still coaching basketball. You still have high expectations. Like you said, maybe not drawing up those alley-oop plays, but like you said, some of the other just basic fundamentals and basic skills and stuff you're working in, you could do regardless of whatever gender it is that you end up coaching. So I like the way you put that. All righty, coach. So as we talked about, we're going to get into what it's like playing fast on both ends. So let's kind of talk about what led to this. What did you see that led to you wanting to be playing fast, going up and down on both ends? And then schematically, what is it that you like to do offensively and defensively that sort of goes along with being able to play fast?
Well, I think it's just exciting basketball. I think the kids, that's the way they want to play. They want to get up and down the court. I mean, when you watch the college game, they're up and down the court. You watch the WNBA, they're up and down the court. You go watch these kids in their AAU tournaments, and they play up and down the court, and that's how they want to play. So I think there's, a time to slow it down and to, you're up 6 with 2 minutes to go. Listen, it's time to put the brakes on just a little bit. And that's actually where we struggle a little bit. is learning to slow it down. But I mean, it's just a fast game, and I think if you got the athletes, and right now I currently have a team that it's loaded with athletes, and it allows you to go and play that kind of basketball game. You know, I've had teams in the past where we couldn't play as fast as we want to play. You know, and we still run into teams now that, you know, guys, we just can't press them. Their guards are going to eat our press alive, and they're going to score the way we like to score, which is easy baskets. And, you know, we just got to get back and play defense. And even then, when you're just getting back and playing defense, we're still going to get up in their face and force them to try to make mistakes. But it's, you know, we're a team that our defensive philosophy is if they miss the shot, we're picking up right now, like full 94 feet. They miss a shot, we're going to get after them right now and start to try to deny passes and just make it hard to get the ball off the floor. You know, if that ball goes in the net, we get a chance to set up in our zone press. We're going to do that, and we play our zone press until they're inside the three-point line, and then we pick back up man to man. We transition pretty good from our zone press into man. You know, and we have a really lengthy team. You know,
that's good.
6'2", 6 foot, 6 foot. You know, we got 3 kids that are on the verge of, you know, like 6'1" or bigger. And, you know, we rotate through our posts, and they defend the paint really well. And, you know, they know we got the guards to you know, the guards are going to shoot the ball and let it fly. They rebound so well. We're a great rebounding team, which allows us to play quick. You know, you got the green light as long as you got a rebounder.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a rule we play by. The kids just know the rules that we play by offensively. And that's one of the things you ask is, you know, I tell my kids, when the ball is in your hand, and this doesn't matter if you're the best player on the team or, you know, you're the worst player on the team, you're still on a really good team, and there's a reason that you're there. When the ball is in your hand, your job is to score the basketball. And that's the way my kids play. Now, that doesn't necessarily always mean take a shot, one pass, and shoot it. You know, if you know you're only a 20% three-point shooter, and that's where that ball's hit you in the hands, that might not be the best way to score the basketball. You know, you may be looking to drive or dump it inside the post player for an easy, you know, basket around the rim. So it's about playing fast, but it's also about playing smart and knowing your limitations as a player. And, you know, they get all those reps in practice. Everybody gets those reps in practice. Mm-hmm. And our practices is, you know, this past season, in Georgia, it was a realignment year, so we moved into a new region, and the region we were in wasn't as strong as the region we had just came out of. And, you know, we ended up, we lost our first region game, which we had a couple of kids out with COVID. We lost by like 5 or 6. Same team later in the season, we beat by 20 something when I had a full squad. So, I mean, we had a really good team last year. We're bringing back pretty much the same exact kids. We graduated a few, but the kids we're bringing in are just as talented. And, you know, hopefully we're going to be able to pick up and just continue the pace. Like I said, it's balls in your hands, score the basketball or get it to where it can be scored. And again, we run just a simple transition fast break where, again, we're looking to push ahead. You know, this summer there's a couple games where we played this summer with shot clocks. And, you know, I think it was within 10 seconds of every shot clock, we had already had a shot up.
Yeah.
And
the old Phoenix Suns.
offensive rebounds and putbacks. And, you know, we're not the greatest shooting team by any means. I mean, if we shot 40% for a game last year, I consider that a good game. And we averaged typically in the 70s when we shot 40%. But when we had games where we did not shoot well, we would score in the 50s still. But, you know, we were able to beat people because we out-rebounded them by 20 rebounds in a game. You know, and that's the thing. Just you got to have the athletes in order to play that up tempo. Because, like I said, I had teams in the past where we weren't as up tempo as we are now, but we were still able to manage 45, 50 points a game, playing slow, controlled, and playing really good team basketball. Which I think even playing fast, we play good team basketball. We average about 8 assists a game or more.
Right.
You know, that's not a great number, but it's when your assists are more than your turnovers, that's what you're looking for.
Absolutely. And you mentioned about the players' mentality of if they're not going to score, get the ball to somebody who can. So like they have that mindset that it's either going to be them or they're going to need to get the ball in the right position and make something happen. So I feel like that selflessness is still there. They're definitely not playing selfish, that's for sure. Talk a little bit about getting out in transition. So that was a point that you brought up a couple times that I wanted to specifically address. So off a missed shot, and what is the ideal, I guess, if time is the best way to measure this, like time where our transition offense needs to be executing this by this amount of time, otherwise the transition opportunity is over, and now we just got to get into our half court. What does that sort of look like for you getting out in transition?
I mean, I think it's a typical transition. We run the two guards to the corners, opposite corners of each other. We got one post runner rim running. We got the other post player trailing the play, and whichever guard has gotten the outlet pass should be in the middle of the floor looking to hit that wing as quick as possible. So, I mean, it's a typical fast break. And that wing that we're hitting, I mean, when you're the guard that catches the ball and you turn, you got a split second to see the two guards that are running out ahead of you. You know, sometimes that decision's easy if, you know, one of the guards is outrunning the other. You see who's ahead, that's who you're hitting. But, you know, then knowing your players as well is like, if they're both even, which one has the better skill? Which one's going to be able to score easier? And the kids know that. The kids know, you know, what each other's abilities are. But we looked at throw it out ahead. And like I said, if that post player's done their job and they're rim running and you got somebody trailing for a rebound and you're open, let it fly. I mean, that's our one pass and let it fly is if you got rebounders. Or if, you know, defense is playing tight on you and you can take them one-on-one before everybody gets there, that's still your option to go. Or if that post player's done their job and you see their numbers, you feed the post. I mean, it's a numbers game. When you're inside the paint and you score about 60 to 70% inside the paint, that's your highest percentage shot on the floor. Get the ball in the highest percentage areas. You know, as a team last year, I think we shot around 30% from three. So the numbers are better if you can get it inside. Or if you shoot that three and miss, you got the rebounders that are going to be able to put it right back. And so that's what we look for initially on our break. And if we don't get it, reversing the ball back to the point guard. Again, the point guard, ball's in their hands. You know, they started that break, they trailed to that side where they pushed the ball's back in their hands. Can you take your girl one-on-one right now? And if you can take your girl one-on-one driving opposite of the post, you draw their help, give the post, you score. Again, high percentage shots. Our point guard this year is probably our best player. You know, she shoots about 40% from the three, or at least she did this summer. She got that look, take it. And again, if not, you don't have those options that are D'ing you up, kick it to the trailer. One thing we have here in our forward this year, 6-foot freshman coming in lefty that can flat out light it up. And the other forward we play is her whole life grew up playing a guard. Last year trained solely as a post player because she knew it was just a log jam in front of her at the guard position. She wanted to be on the floor, so she trained to be a post player. It's about 5'8", strong kid, great leader. But again, she's got those guard skills. So depending on which one's in the game, again, you got a trailer that's ready to knock down a three, or they can penetrate. If not, they dribble into a handoff, and we got pick and roll basketball. Or like I said, defense is playing behind, you know, to step back and shoot a three. Defense went under the screen, shoot three. And again, all my players, that's pretty much as basic as our fast break gets. It looks at just the simplest options. It doesn't have to be complicated. It's simple options. And if, you know, we don't get that dribble handoff, they're getting the ball back to the point guard, and then she can call up a half court set. And again, our half court set, we typically run the horns offense, you know, either using the post players for a screen and rolling with them, or, you know, getting the ball on down the corner and running the true horn set and letting them come off that double screen and try to score. But again, we're always looking to be in attack mode.
I wanted to ask, you brought it up a couple of times about the opportunities that are afforded to you because of the rebounding that you have, and the rebounding that's available to help around the rim. How much do you attribute the rebounding success you've had to the players, I suppose, athleticism or some of their more physical gifts versus actual like coaching points or things that you like emphasize? What's the balance or that you would give, or the percentage perhaps that you would give to the success that you've had with rebounding?
I mean, honestly, I would say it's probably 75% their just raw natural skill, size. Our post players, 6'2", 6'1", 6 foot.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't bless them with that ability. That's just the, God-given natural right there. But every day in practice, I got a great coach, assistant coach, Barry Lakes. He works with our post players every day. When I was at Woodstock, his kids were coming through Woodstock, and I got a chance to coach them up a little bit when they were there. But he's been a former head coach, and his youngest daughter actually went and played at college Charleston, again, post players. And he's works with our post every day. We start every practice with either, just depending on what part of the season, either 30 minutes early season or 20 minutes later in the season, that we break it up, guards on one, post on the other. And, he's working with them on their post moves. He's working with them on rebounding, which way, you got the ball, chin it, outlet, spinning out away from the paint. I mean, it's basic basketball, but again, we work with them every day. Right now, 1 day a week, they're coming in 4 post players at a time, and we get our 4-on-1 workouts in, and he's there working with them in the mornings in the preseason. So we coach them up to do what they do, but again, their natural ability is there as well.
Being 6 foot and having a couple 6-footers certainly doesn't hurt when it comes to trying to get boards. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And then on the defensive side, you talked a little bit about the zone press that you like to implement. When it's being run at its most effective, is it are you able to get turnovers off it? Does it just get the team out of their rhythm and force them to work into getting into their half court set? What is your goals and mentality that you have in terms of that zone press that you're running being successful?
Well, the majority of the game, it's not turning the ball over, and it's not creating 10 counts. Though we averaged, I think, 2 10 counts a game this year. I mean, we make it difficult for them to get the ball across half court. And it's just when you're facing that much pressure coming down the floor, typically teams tend to rush, like, all right, we finally got it by, let's go get what we can before they get. And that's the whole purpose of a press, I feel, is to speed somebody up, speed them up, make them make bad decisions, take that, what they think is the best shot that they're going to get real quick, and, rebound it and take off the other way. And we were really successful with that this year. The games we slowed down the most are when teams press us. A pressing team does not like to be pressed. And any coach that says otherwise, they're a liar. You don't ever want to be pressed, because it speeds you up. But if you got the layups and you got the open looks, you go get them. But if not, that's the one time that we actually slow down a little bit to make sure we got everybody, and then we go attack. Don't let the press speed us up. That's our philosophy too.
And before I forget, I wanted to talk a little bit really quickly about your half court. I think you mentioned how you like to run man to man. Do you feel that your man to man defense that you run is really solid to the point where teams want to just get that first good look that they can if they break their press, because they know if they have to play you in that half court man to man that it's going to be that much more difficult? Do you feel like they feel that way about playing against your defense in the half court?
I mean, maybe they do. And again, if you got numbers and you can get that advantage, you got to take advantage of it. But a lot of the times, like I said, we're fast. Like even our post players, they're fast. We had a freshman last year. She came in. Like I said, she's the 6-footer. Had 300 rebounds as a freshman, but she is long and lanky and athletic as can be. So she's up top, 6-footers on the top of the press. Like when you're inbounding the ball, she's one of the ones coming to trap you. And when we get into that half court, I got 2 6-footers sitting in there to defend the paint like nobody's business. They are great. It allows our guards to be like up in your grill. You don't get an easy possession. And that's just the way we play defense. So, I mean, our guards are going to get beat off the dribble every once in a while. But there's posts that are there to take away that middle and be in help. And we rotate really well and help defense. And so it allows us to play like that. And I think teams, I guess, if they can break it and they can get something easy, then, or at least what they think is easy, then maybe that is why they go quick. I don't know.
What we've just kind of talked about, you know, the ideas of getting on transition and pressing and moving. And you talked about even when you had the little shot clock, how quickly you're getting shots up. One of the concerns I'm sure many coaches have with that is keeping things under control and still playing with discipline and playing the right way. So how have you been able to kind of help keep your girls under control and stay focused so that they're not making sloppy mistakes and getting to the point where they're playing like out of control, whether it's on offense or defense?
I think it starts in practice. Again, I'm not asking these kids to go out there and do things that they've not worked on.
Yeah.
And we work on it daily. Like I said, we break guards and posts, and, you know, while posts are down there doing their thing, you know, I got another great coach and they're working with guards that, you know, we're working coming off the screens and, you know, reading defenses and stepping back. And yeah, I think when kids, you know, again, they practice it, repetition, it just becomes second nature. And when you see it in practice, you know who should be taking shots and you know who shouldn't be taking the shots. And like, you've never made that shot in practice. Why do you think it's going to go in the game? That's not the one that you need to be taking, you know, and getting kids to understand that role and be comfortable with different roles on the team. I think is a big part of it, because like I said, the ball's in your hands. You know, I had this conversation with one of my players just the other day, watching her in the fall league. Got, you know, the dribble penetration, drew the help defense. They kicked her. She's wide open for a three. And I swear, I think she's the best shooter on the team. It's a pretty shot. It goes in practice all the time. And she doesn't shoot it. She hesitates. Defense comes out at her. She drives and shoots a lower percentage. I mean, again, she's trying to get to the paint. Yeah. But for her, it's a lower percentage shot and she misses. And I'm having that conversation with her after she played. You know, the next day in the weight room, I was like, listen, you're a better shooter than you are a driver. You realize that, right? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, well, why ain't you shooting the ball? Because if you ain't going to shoot the ball, I'm not going to put you in a situation to even give you that shot. You got to do your job. You got to know your role. Your role is right now is that shooter until you know, get that drive a little bit better. So when they kicked you and you're open, that person, their job was to score the basketball, and they just put it in what they thought was the best situation to score, which was you wide open for a three, because they've seen you make hundreds of those in practice. Why ain't you shooting it? You know, and so you got to get them disciplined on what their roles are and what they're supposed to do. And like I said, I think that just comes with repetition and practice. And we do a lot of things in practice that simulate how we play in the game. And, you know,
yeah, I was going to ask about the kind of the pace of your practice and what that sort of looks like in terms of the, I don't know if it's the intensity level or just like maybe how quickly you transition for things. What's kind of the pace of your practices and how does that like kind of help translate to the pace of play during a game?
Well, I said, it's just a few things that we do at practice that's just routine for us. Like I said, we break up into those individual sessions for the first 20, 30 minutes. But the next thing we do, we come back together, and I call the drill perfection, but it's a 4-corner shooting, but sort of a 3-man weave hybrid kind of thing. Like the person in the middle gets the rebound, and then you have one wing that's running long, and you got one that's going to be running a shorter route coming across the middle of the court. So you hit the outlet in the middle, they hit ahead for the layup. I mean, that simulates what we're really looking to do in our offense. And then those two girls that made the passes, they are then filling, coming down, catching balls from the other corners to make jump shots. The person that took the layup gets the ball out and is now outletting it to the passers that are throwing for the shots, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But, I mean, so we run that drill for like 6 minutes. And, again, it's a conditioning thing, but it's also, you know, the things we do, catch and shoot and, you know, finishing, looking long and finishing for layups. And we set goals, and if they don't get the, you know, you don't score – you know, we keep track of how many points they're making. They got a couple of good managers, and they're over there every time the ball goes in. They're adding the scores.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
And we set a goal, and if they don't get the goal, that's where we'll do a little extra running. I'm a coach that doesn't believe in running without a purpose, and I don't think running for conditioning at the end of practice has any purpose. I mean, some coaches do. I don't. My kids probably love that because they never run a suicide or gut drill, whatever you want to call them, at the end of practice. We just don't do them. We don't line up and shoot free throws until, if they make one, you got to down and back. If they make both, to go into the next shooter. We don't do that. We get all of our running done in practice with our drills, and by the time they leave practice, they're as tired as if they've ever, if they ran 5 or 6, 10 of those at the end of practice. So that.
Well, what that does, it sounds like, is that's just you're working on both. It's not like the running necessarily is some separate thing that doesn't have any like basketball tie into it. It all ties into a basketball skill or something that they would actually be using on the court.
Exactly. And another one we do, like I said, that's our first, 6 minutes of a drill, and then we'll go into running our fast break.
Mm-hmm.
We'll run it without defense and make sure everybody knows, and instead of taking no shots, we'll run through all the options and exhaust it all the way through. And then, then we'll add in defense, and we'll do 3 possessions, offense, defense. So like, the rebounding team gets the ball, goes down on offense, and, so you got one team transitioning in defense, you got one trying to run their break, and you play it live for 3 possessions. And again, just simulating what they got to do in the game, and just getting the kids familiar with each other and their abilities. It allows us to play that way.
Is that something what you mentioned about is about players being in the best position to do their skill set, and if you have a really good like lights out shooter like during the game, that expectation is that player should be shooting maybe instead of necessarily driving the basketball. Is that something that is kind of explicitly talked about during practice? Is that just something that the girls, you think, just sort of like pick up on and see the tendencies as you're running things through in practice? How much is kind of explicitly sort of talked about, and how much is just sort of understood through the course of what you're running through in practice?
I don't believe in secrets. I know a lot of coaches will meet with their players, separate, and be like, hey, listen, I need you to do this, or I need you to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I tell mine in front of the whole team. Like, listen, you're the best kid out here. You got to take at least 20 shots a game. We're going to have a chance to win. You got to take 20. Everybody understands she's taking 20 shots, and we got to get her 20 shots. Or, I need, 20 points just out of the post. It doesn't have to be from an individual per se, but as a collective group, 20 points has to come here. So when I tell them, that's just how I coach. I tell them, listen, you've not got that, that drive isn't yours, or you shoot so well behind the 3-point line. Why wouldn't you take that open shot? And the whole team knows, hey, listen, this kid, she shoots it as good as, or if not better than every one of you all. We got to give her a shot.
Yeah.
And they know it as well. So, and what I love to hear is when, like my best player is probably, again, she could go out and she could shoot it 40 times a game and score 40 a game, but she doesn't do that. She wants to get her teammates involved. Her last fall league game, 18 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists. I mean, she played out of her mind. She wants to have everybody involved. But she went up to one of her post players in practice and said, listen, that's your jump shot right there. There's a free throw line. Like they hit her on like a pick and pop, but it was just right to the free throw area. And like right in her wheelhouse, like, you don't ever miss that. Why don't you take that shot? And, players tell each other and encourage each other. It's a great thing to have.
And that speaks a lot, I think, to the type of team openness and the level of open communication that it sounds like you and your staff have with your players, where everything is just kind of out there in the open, and players understand each other's strengths, and they know what's expected, and like you said, you're not necessarily having to like pull players aside and kind of having these separate side conversations. It's kind of all out there, and nobody's gonna say that you aren't transparent, that's for sure.
Oh, and it's probably, it might get looked down on by some people, but even in practice, like I'll take the 2 best guards and be like, all right, you're on separate teams, pick. And, they're like, well, what are we doing? I'm not going to tell you what we're doing. It might be a shooting competition, and they want to load their team up with the best shooters, or it might be a 5-on-5 situation and they're trying to put their best lineup, or, but when they start picking players and you're not the first pick and you're the last pick, it tells you, I mean, again, it might not be the the nicest thing, but it lets you know as a player where you stand in everybody else's mind as well. I mean, it's not just that, and again, I don't know that that's always the nicest thing. A lot of times I try to have a lot of them picked out and to split up evenly, but.
Well, it sounds like your players, or at least the culture of your program, is to the point where like they can handle that. It doesn't seem like from what you said, like it creates a lot of like infighting or a lot of like frustration with your team. It seems like your players understand that like this is how it goes, and they're not necessarily taking it like personal, it seems.
Right. And I've done this at River Edge for 12. This will be year number 13. And as long as I can remember, we've not had any of the infighting. I mean, our kids love each other. It's a sort of a family culture, and, they're each other's biggest supporters. Like the kids that didn't get to play a whole lot last year and were on the bench, I mean, they were in every game. I mean, part of the reasons we won some of the games was the encouragement they would give the kids that were coming off the floor. They would tell them what they're seeing from the sideline. I mean, they talk to each other. Christmas time, we have Christmas parties and, decorate gingerbread houses and have competitions. And when it's warm, we're tubing, and these kids, they like to be around each other. And so I feel like we've built that kind of culture to where we can coach them as hard as we coach them. Of every kid that's on my team right now, I've watched grow up through our programs, through our junior programs. I've been to their games and watched them play when they was in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. They know how much we care about them, and they know that, we get on to everybody. Even like I say, if you're player number 12 on the bench and you're not seeing the floor, I guarantee you've got your butt chewed out at practice a time or two, because we care about you. And we want to see you get better. We want to see you make the improvements to get on the floor. And so I think the kids know and understand that, and they, like I said, know and understand their roles and accept their roles, and they know what's expected out of the kids in the higher roles.
Yeah.
And, because again, it's something we discuss at practice openly amongst all of them.
And, and as you mentioned of how many years you've been at your program, that expectation is really just kind of baked in there because of how long you've been there. And that certainly is just, led to players understanding before they even walk in the door how things go. And it's really awesome that there hasn't really been any of that infighting, and things have been staying pretty positive and upbeat. And I think that's awesome. Something else I was curious about is talked a little bit about the conditioning and the amount of work that your players do in practice, and a little bit about mentally staying sharp. But in terms of your rotation, by playing fast on both ends, do you run a smaller rotation and just need those girls to be ready to go physically and mentally the whole time? Do you go into your bench? What's kind of your rotation? I'm sure it does change year for year, but in general, what sort of rotation do you tend to run during a game?
Typically, we play about 7 or 8 players. That's about all we've played the last few years. That's actually going to change this year. Like I said, we have an amazing incoming freshman class.
Yeah.
My biggest concern in the offseason is we graduated our point guard, 4-year starter, just floor general. I don't have to call out plays. She sees it. She gets us into everything. And the worry is how do we replace that point guard? Option one, take our best player on the team and move her to point guard, which is kind of what we've done. But we have a freshman that's coming in skill-wise that I think as a freshman, she is every bit as good as the senior that just graduated, and she's just a freshman. And, she's already drawn interest from a lot of mid-majors as a freshman. The last fall league game, she scored 20. She had 4 threes. I mean, she's like her jump shot and reading defenses. And, they went under, coach, so I stepped back and shot 3. I'm like, perfect. And she made it. And, she's the one that, this year she will be on the opposite of where that point guard is. So when that point guard drives her side, you got to make a choice. Are you going to help off the shooter, which she's going to knock down a 3. She's not going to be intimidated of that shot, and she's going to shoot it, and she's going to hit it probably at a 40% or better. Or do you stay tight on her and try to go one-on-one against our guard that's, And again, she's the real deal.
Yeah.
And then are you going to slide with the help from the post players? Because she has no issue giving it up to the post to let them score around the basket.
It's gonna pick your poison at that point.
Pick your poison. So it's a great problem to have, but I've got 12 kids this year that can play, and trying to figure out how to play. And can we get all 12 out there? Because if you split your team, I mean, I think I can evenly split them, and one of the big 6-footers on each side, and put my 2 best guards, one on each side. I put my 2 lefty shooters, one on each side, and I think I can. The 2 post play or 4 guards that are guard post, whatever you want to call them, they can shoot or they can post up. Put them on opposite. I can go 5 and 5 and use the other 2 as if any guard gets a foul, you're the guard sub for the guard. If any post gets a foul, you're the sub for the post. Mm-hmm. I mean, we are way deep, and just be like, all right, this group, you got 3 minutes. This group's coming in, and we're just going to run people. I mean, is that the style that we go and just go the platooning action, or But typically we've done, like I said, 7 or 8. One of the crazy stats from last year is I was looking, our 3 post players that we played last year, they all played within an average of 30 seconds of each other for a game. Like one had 20 minutes, 30 seconds. One had 19 minutes and 59 seconds. The other had 20 minutes and 15 seconds. I mean, they all played with it, and it wasn't by design. It's just how we rotated our kids.
It just ended up that way, huh?
Yeah. My job is to coach during the game. I'll coach whoever's on the floor. My assistants are the ones that are grabbing kids, resting kids, and looking for, hey, so-and-so's getting tired. Let's get somebody in there for them. So again, I trust my assistants. I have great assistant coaches. And so they're putting the kids out there and, knowing what their abilities are. I think that's the job of a coach, is to put everybody in their best position to use what, they're good at to try to go win games.
Yeah. And it sounds like it's a perfect complement. If the coaches are working on that and your staff is working on that, and then you're very open about players' roles and that they understand why they're being put into certain situations. It sounds like players on your team understand when they're getting on the court, like obviously in terms of whole team concepts, what's expected of them, but also on an individual basis. All right, I know that I'm here in this particular position because like coach wants or expects or needs me to make sure that I'm doing this on the court. At least that's the sense that am I getting. Am I right in thinking that?
Yeah. I mean, that's how we go.
Yeah, no, I think that there's so much clarity involved in that system that helps a lot. We talked a little bit about physical preparation. I did want to touch a little bit more on just sort of like mental preparation for your players. Is there more to keeping your players like mentally sharp so they're not making mental mistakes at the end, or are your players, because they know their roles and they know what's expected of them, that there's not those mental lapses that exist in those late game situations when they've been running up and down the whole game? How has your team been able to kind of stay mentally sharp so that they're still executing down the stretch?
I typically hold on to my timeouts to the fourth quarter, and I hold them for that reason. Now, again, if a team gets on a run early or whatever you need to do to try to slow momentum, you got to use them when you got to use them. But I typically save all of them for the fourth quarter, try to rest the legs a little bit in the fourth quarter with timeouts. And again, if we're in a situation where we're up 6, there's 2 minutes to go, now's where we got to slow down. Let's take our time. Again, I have one or two continuity offenses that we can run over, and they just turn over and over and over again, and we can kill as much clock as we need. So I think there is something to that. And looking back over our stats, our point production does fall a little bit in the fourth quarter. And it may be because we've ran out of gas a little bit by the time we get there. But the thing is, the other team is too.
Yeah.
We've put it on them so much through the course of the game that you're now, for the most part last year, we were playing one of two ways. We were up about 30 in the fourth quarter, or we were down 30 in the fourth quarter, because when two of our losses last year, we lost to Marietta, which you had Coach DeWitt on back in March before his Final Four. He went on and won the state championship, by the way.
Yeah, he did.
We were down big to them in the Christmas tournament. Again, we were missing some kids, but it is what it is. And then other big loss came to Westlake in the Final Four, which went on to win the Geico National Championship. So they, we were down pretty big there as well. And but typically we're up, and so even if we are making those mistakes, you got a little bit of cushion.
Yeah, you sort of put yourself in a position where if you're being executed and being really successful in the beginning, you're probably, and you can speak to this, probably mentally have kind of worn that other team down just as much, hopefully a lot more, because they're right. Sometimes you like you kind of mentioned, you're kind of blowing the doors off the gym in the beginning, and they're mentally a lot more fatigued than you are. Even if your players are maybe physically tired, that they might be emotionally and mentally on the ropes, so to speak.
Right. And that's the case, but and they are, and like I said, you're running out of gas, but they ran out of gas a long time ago. But then again, you find yourself in those kind of games where you can't press. Like the team that Marietta beat in the state championship, we beat them earlier in the season, but they have one of the best guards in the state of Georgia on their team. And, it was a game where we couldn't press them. It was a matter of we got back, we played half court defense, and it was just a back and forth game all the way through. And, both teams in the end are mentally exhausted. And I think they just kind of wear themselves down equally.
Yeah.
But again, timeouts and those kind of things help you along the way, especially, you got about 5 minutes worth of timeouts sitting in your pocket.
Yeah, I wanted to just touch on that a little bit more, because obviously, as we talked about, your ideal situation is playing fast on both ends. But what are some keys, or what are some signals to you that indicate like, okay, we're going to have to slow things down and we're going to have to pull back a little bit? Are there certain things you think coaches should be aware of, maybe newer, younger coaches who haven't, maybe have a lot of experience, that would indicate like, okay, I know you want to play fast on both ends, but here are some signs that you're going to have to slow things down or you're going to be in trouble?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, if you're still playing fast, if there's 2 minutes to go in a game and you're up 6 or 8 points and you're still trying to play fast, and now you shot real quick, first pass you shot, you don't get a rebound. Well, honestly, that's about the same as a turnover. You just gave it right back to the other team, and you're giving them a chance to get back in the game. So you got to understand late game situations. I think as a coach, you just, you got your eyes on everything as the game's going on. Like that game I was just telling you about with Woodstock. We're sitting here talking about playing fast, but there was a period of that game, for the last 6 minutes of that game, we held the basketball. And I had no intentions of holding the basketball for 6 minutes. I kid you not. Beginning fourth quarter, we're up about 12, and for some, I don't know how it worked out, but we ended up in a four-corner look. Like the post just hadn't fully made it down the floor. The point guard was dead center. My wings were all the way down in the corner, and we look like we're in a four-corner set, and they are played up tight on everybody. And my point guard drives the ball, gets an easy layup. I was like, okay. So the next possession, they go down, they shoot, they miss. We call a timeout. And in the timeout, I said, hey, listen, we're going to go four-corner Harrison. And we have two different four corners. One, Harrison High School, they play us. We just came out of region with them. And they would go four corners at any point in the game just to spread you out to try to score. If you they drive, you help in, they kick out, they shoot threes. They shoot about 30 a game. And this is how they play. They use the four corners to spread you to get easy shots. And then we got four corner Creekview, which is another region team, and they're ahead and they're going to hold the ball and they're going to stall as long as possible.
Yeah.
With what I seen on the floor, I was like, hey, we're going to go four corner Harrison. We're going to spread them out. We're going to get easy looks. Well, the next thing you know, we don't go four corner Harrison. We go four corner Creekview, and we held the ball for 3 minutes. I mean, you're up 12, and all of a sudden now there's 2.5 minutes left to go in the quarter because you just held the ball for 3 minutes before you took a shot, and then come back down the next possession after we rebounded and did the same thing again. And, you got fans booing at you. This ain't basketball, but it was something that worked. And again, it wasn't something that we intentionally tried, but it was something that worked. And so playing, you just got to play with what your kids are capable of doing. And our kids were able to take care of the basketball. So if we want to kill it, we can.
Yeah, and that's a good point to mention is you might be in these situations where you like to play fast and play up and down, but then, like you said, taking that time to talk to your players, like, well, let's understand the situation that we're in. Would it make sense for us to be doing this right now? Or do we have the personnel who's able to hold the ball? And also, if you don't have a shot clock, I feel like that also adds a whole new wrinkle to things too. But if kind of can maintain that discipline and understand that, it sounds like you're trying to play a certain way to get up to a certain lead and get to a certain point. And then maybe once you've reached that point, well, now we're playing a different type of basketball to kind of secure that sort of lead.
Yeah. I mean, and again, that's just coaching basketball. And,
Yep.
You got to do what you got to do to put your team in the best situation to win.
Yeah.
And understanding what your kids are capable of doing. I mean, I've had teams in the past, I don't like to go 4-corner spread and stall because we can't take care of the basketball good enough. And,
yeah. I've been there too.
I mean, and part of taking the first best shot that we get, or, within your skill set, what you're comfortable of doing and creating and on the offensive end, that helps you get there. I mean,
yeah, for sure. Another quick question here before we start to wrap up that I'm also interested from a coaching perspective. When you're playing fast on both ends, as a coach on the sidelines, there could potentially be a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of transition, a lot of up and down and back and forth. And so I'm curious, especially for somebody like yourself who's done this for a while, how do you as a coach and your coaching staff kind of stay on top of things and make sure that you're noticing a lot of the different things that are going on when sometimes the game is just looking like a track meet going back and forth really quickly?
Well, it's also important to get player input in that as well. Like, when you pull a kid out and you talk to them, like, what are you seeing out there?
Yeah.
Why did you go with that as opposed to doing something else? Why are you making the decision you're making? What are you seeing? And then let the players tell you what they see, and then using that to help adjust. Hey, she just said that this girl every time down is, 3-quarter fronting her, but we haven't caught it as coaches. If we'll just have her slip and spin and seal, we got a back door and, put her back in, tell her to do that, boom, easy layup. And you're like, all right, maybe as coaches, we didn't see it because we're looking at other things, but the players can, definitely fill you in if you'll just listen to them. Again, you're talking 16, 17, 18-year-old kids, typically 15 maybe, we're playing some freshmen. So
you're gonna have some 15
15 to 18-year-old kids, but they've played basketball and they play year round. I mean, that's the thing with my kids that, we work out in the mornings, 4-on-1s. We work out after school, conditioning and lifting. And then they go see their trainers at night and they get up even more shots and work their skills. And, currently we're playing in a fall league, but, all summer long, they either played with us or they played with their AAU team. All spring long, they played with their AAU team when your season was over. These kids play hundreds and hundreds of games every year.
Yes.
And they learn the game, and like I said, they train year round, so they know what they're talking about too, and it really helps when you got kids that are that in tune to the game.
And as you mentioned, it's a really good point, especially if you have players who are playing a bunch of AAU, they're playing club, they see the game and have so much experience being on the court that they can communicate a lot of information to you from all of the experience that they've acquired, and they have to notice things that you can because they're the ones playing. And it sounds like you've really built that sort of open form of communication. We had talked about it earlier, that open form of communication where players know if they bring something up or they answer your question that you're going to actually value their input and apply what their input is, and that you value and need to be hearing what they're seeing on the court.
Yeah, I mean, you can't ever be so cocky as a coach to think you know everything. I mean, my hardest, most difficult year was that very first year. I didn't have any assistants, and I was playing with 9th and 8th graders. that didn't have
Yeah.
a bunch of experience. I was fortunate enough that the guys coach was, he was in about year 28 or 29 of coaching. Our athletic director was a retired basketball coach of 30 years. So you surround yourself with people that know the game. You're always, you got to, if you don't know something, like I struggled so bad that first year. I had no idea what offense to run against a 1-3-1 zone. I could not figure it out. And, sat down with guys coach, sat down with the athletic director, and like, listen, you guys are basketball coaches. How can I do this? I know I'm supposed to be the coach. I'm supposed to have the answers, but I don't. And, you got to exhaust all your resources, whether it's your assistants, it's your players, it's the hours that you film or spend studying the film, and, other scouting reports from other coaches. Hey, what'd you do that worked? What'd you didn't do? I mean, is there something that you would do differently the next time? Just those kind of things, and take every advantage that you can as a coach if you really want to put your kids in the best position to be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't state that any better. To wrap up, Coach, there's a couple questions that I ask every guest. We'll go ahead and get started here with this first one. Looking back on your coaching career, what is a coaching moment of yours that you think others listening would be able to learn from?
Never count a team out. That second year we were open, again, just freshmen and sophomores, same kids I'd had the previous year. By the end of the season, we were playing to get to, getting ready to go in the region tournament. We were down 9 with a minute to go. You don't come back from being down 9 with a minute to go, but we came back and won that game. I won't go into all the details of it. We ain't got time for it, but we came back, we won that game. That team was in a 3-way tie going into that game for first place in our region. The first time we played them, they beat us by 30 or so. Then fast forward to the first game of the region tournament, we're playing a team that combined 2 games that beat us 60+ points in the regular season. We found ourselves down 1 with 7 seconds to go, ball under our basket, and they were in a 2-3 zone. We called a timeout and ran a play where we threw the ball off the girl's back on the inbound and put it in for a layup. And by the time they realized what happened, there was only a couple seconds. Their half-court heave on the inbounds didn't go in, and we knocked off the other 1 seed. So never count a team out. With a team that had a losing record, we ended up making the state tournament, and we've made the state tournament all but 3 years of the previous 12 that we've been there. So just don't count your teams out, and have confidence that you're in what you're doing.
Yeah.
That you're going to be peaking when you want to be peaking and playing your best basketball at the end of the season. So that's probably one of the biggest
That's
things.
awesome. Yeah. I would love to have seen that moment. I could imagine what that must have looked like in the gym, seeing that.
It was, it was something I almost called earlier in the game, because like I said, they were in a 2-3, and their back row never seen the ball come in bounds. They were just facing out against who they were having to defend. I almost called it earlier in the game. And it's something that the girl taking the ball out of bounds had done a few times throughout the season when it was there. They always have that opportunity to do it if it's there. And, but yeah, I called a timeout and I said, this is what we're going to do. And they all kind of looked at me. I was like, it's wide open. So I just scooted the ball side post player back a little bit to give a little bit of room, brought the other offside post player from the block into the middle, calling for the ball, which drew the middle of the defense. It was wide open.
Yeah.
So
That's
trust your players to make plays.
And your players trusted you, and they bought in, and things like that can happen when that sort of situation and climate has been established in culture in your program. That's phenomenal. And to wrap up, Coach, I give every guest what I call 60-second soapbox. Feel free to go longer, though. Your platform to get out your final thought, closing message, a closing idea, just something that you would want to leave the listeners with. So, Coach, I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor over to you, and you can take it away.
I guess it's something I said earlier, but especially for the newer coaches listening, go to as many clinics as possible and learn the game from, the veterans that's been there for a while. Trust who you surround yourself with, and surround yourself with a great coaching staff. Listen to your players, develop relationships with your players. And that's the biggest thing. I think what allows us to be as successful as we've been is the relationships that we have as coaches with our kids and our teammates, the relationships that they develop. So I just think those are the biggest things to coaching is, again, at the end of the day, we're playing a game, and this is a game that's supposed to be fun. And if the kids aren't having any fun, then there's not really a point to being out there. So even in the years where we've had, our teams weren't as great, we still had fun. Our kids still, loved each other. They treated each other like family. We still have our outings and get-togethers. We have our pregame meals at players' houses, and, our kids, they got to enjoy being there. And one of the biggest things that I was told by, actually, my assistant coach came up with this. He said, girls have to have fun in order to win. Guys need to win in order to have fun. That was kind of the difference in how, his take on everything. And I fully believe in that. If your kids are, especially on the girls' side, if they're having fun, there ain't anything that they wouldn't do for you. And, as far as the effort that they're giving you, it's something that we don't ever have to coach is effort. Our kids give it. So, and when you can get your kids to buy into giving everything they got and laying it all out there for each other, good things are going to happen. And, we've seen that this past season.
No, that's a really interesting insight that you had there. And as somebody who coaches girls, I can agree that the best teams that I've coached are ones that have had a lot of fun and really, really enjoyed the process of playing basketball, being with each other. And that led to a lot of on-court success. So I think that's a really interesting insight that you shared. Coach Taylor, I want to thank you for spending some time talking about your program, talking about playing fast on both ends, your team culture, what your practices look like. A lot of good insights that we can kind of take from that. And I feel like from our conversation, I'm going to want to watch some game film of you, and I want to see your team play and see what that looks like. 'Cause it sounds like a fun brand of basketball. So Coach, thank you so much for joining us, and best of luck this season.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate you having me on, and hopefully it helps somebody out.
Yeah, I'm absolutely sure it will. This was great. And thank you all for listening. This was another edition of the Basketball Teacher Podcast. We'll see you guys next.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Basketball Teacher Podcast. Make sure to connect with us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, or reach us directly through email at basketballteacherpodcast@gmail.com. Take care, be safe, and we'll see you next time.